The MBTI is a theoretical model which divides human personalities into 16 different types based on 4 pairs of personal preferences for relating to reality in a particular way, namely pair 1, introverting and extroverting, pair 2, sensing and intuiting, pair 3, thinking and feeling, and pair 4, judging and perceiving. The first 3 pairs of preferences were first described in 1921 in a book titled Psychological Types, written by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, whose work on the phenomenon of individual human shadow we discussed during Module 8. Personality type researchers Catherine Cook Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers added the 4th pair of preferences to Jung's model in an MBTI handbook published in 1944. To increase our understanding of the MBTI model, we'll briefly explore each of its 4 pairs. Regarding pair 1, within the context of the MBTI, extroverting and introverting are 2 distinctly different preferences for orienting ourselves towards reality. If we have a preference for extroverting, then we'll generally experience a strong desire to interact with other people in the objective outside world. If we have a preference for introverting, then we'll generally experience a strong desire to be on our own while experiencing our subjective inner world. In other words, if we prefer extroverting, then we're generally an outgoing people person who recharges our energy by being among other people. If we prefer introverting, then we're generally a reflective and reserved person who recharges our energy by being alone. So, as an extrovert, we'll generally love attending large social gatherings and meeting new people, we'll generally love working in teams, and we'll generally find being on our own for long periods of time somewhat uncomfortable and boring. As an introvert, we'll generally love socializing with only 1 or 2 people at a time, preferably people with whom we experience a profound connection. We'll generally love working alone or working with only a few co-workers, and we'll generally find being among groups of people for a long period of time somewhat exhausting. Regarding pair 2, within the context of the MBTI, sensing and intuiting are 2 distinctly different preferences for perceiving reality. If we have a preference for sensing, then we'll generally tend to focus our attention on the concrete information we perceive through sight, sound, smell, touch, taste, temperature, motion, etc. If we have a preference for intuiting, then we'll generally tend to focus our attention on the abstract principles, patterns, and meanings which we associate with the phenomena we perceive. To clarify the difference between these 2 types of perception, imagine that a friend shows us this picture and asks us to describe our first impressions. If we prefer sensing, then we might look at the picture and say something like, "I see 5 leaves, all dry and shriveled. The colors of the leaves range from light brown to dark brown. The leaves are displayed against a uniformly white background. Each leaf is positioned differently, casting a small shadow. 2 of the leaves are facing upward, and 3 of the leaves are facing downward." If we prefer intuiting, then we might look at the picture and say something like, "I see in these leaves a symbol of shifting seasons, a snapshot of time itself, a reminder of the cycle of life and death." Regarding pair 3, within the context of the MBTI, thinking and feeling are 2 distinctly different preferences for processing our experience of reality. If we have a preference for thinking, then we'll instinctively tend to make decisions by logically analyzing facts and data so we can make rationally informed choices. If we have a preference for feeling, then we'll generally tend to make decisions by considering the interests and feelings of everyone involved so we can make choices which feel right to us. Broadly speaking, if we're a thinker, then we'll generally attach great importance to truth, justice, and consistency. If we're a feeler, then we'll generally attach great importance to interpersonal harmony, tactful behavior, and concern for others. Regarding pair 4, within the context of the MBTI, judging and perceiving are 2 distinctly different preferences for leading a particular type of life. If we have a preference for judging, then we'll generally tend to lead a life which is characterized by a significant level of routine and stability. If we have a preference for perceiving, then we'll generally tend to lead a life which is characterized by a significant level of variety and flexibility. Broadly speaking, if we prefer judging, then we'll generally attach great importance to organized planning, thorough preparation, and disciplined action. If we prefer perceiving, then we'll generally attach great importance to living in the moment, responding flexibly to new information, and seeking new experiences.